it it's one of those things where, you know, when you're cleaning up your backyard and you need, multiple people to help you because your backyard sometimes is really big. Like, I'm talking about acres. And when I hire that team of cleaners to come, it takes hours upon hours. Rob knows what it is. We have to have squadrons out there to clean up the lawn. And Rob and I were out there. They playing, of course, as one does, playing polo, because that's what people do. It's the sport of the people, right, Rob? It's like anyone can just.
Yeah, this is not croquet set at Canadian Tire for $29.99. We're talking proper polo, all right?
Proper polo, because the thing is, like, it's so hard to find good horses these days, and it's one of those things where I strive to find some decent ones, and as Rob mentioned, it is difficult to find a polo set that matches the horse. But we were out there, and as Rob and I were about hitting the balls back and forth, Rob discovered another note, and he brought it to my attention. So I looked at this note, and I believe it says as following. I was very confused. It said, "Who put those daggers in your eyes? Who rained all over your blue skies? Who inflicted you with pain? I cry for you once again." Again, don't know what this is. Some sort of insight to the man known as Vanis. I know you've all missed our thoughts and the Vanis update. I can tell you there is no Vanis light. It's not like Batman. He doesn't have a giant V that pops up in the sky. It's something else though. We'll disclose that another day because we don't want to give out all the trade secrets. But Vanis is out there. That's the quick update for you. Welcome everyone back to the World Quarantine Podcast. It's been a little bit of time. We've been licking our wounds, gathering our thoughts about the show known as Obi Wan Kenobi. All right, I'm here with one of the owners and proprietors of Heroes World. That'd be Mr. John Ho. Please say hello.
Good day, sir.
And our Prince of Mischief, one of the variants of one of the universes in a galaxy far, far away, Mr. Rob Cadet.
Hey, how are you? I've missed you guys.
It's been a minute.
To be fair, Rob, John and I have been meeting. We just haven't been recording. So there was been a few snafus. We got together and we're like, oh, we were supposed to record. Rob tells us to press the red button. So I blame you for the lack of podcasts. So that's
Well, for those who are watching, if you're listening, you're not going to notice anything. But for those who are watching, if all of a sudden you see me having convulsions and fits of coughing, it's I'm recovering from the effects of the COVID-19. So it's been a fun couple of weeks, let me just say, to the point where I start thinking I'm hallucinating at times. I saw stuff while you were and I were gallivanting on our horses playing polo.
Mm-hmm.
I got freaked out thinking that John had replaced one of his family members with a T-800 exoskeleton, and I was like, no, it could. Oh, it's right there. So it's been a very interesting couple of weeks. Yeah,
it's very confusing. Fever dreams.
Yeah.
Let's go straight into it, because this is something that we've been talking about and wanting for years and years and years. It was always mum about Obi Wan Kenobi. Ewan McGregor coming back to play the titular Obi Wan. We were all excited and jazzed. The cast dropped, and we're like, "Ooh, there's all these actors, including Hayden Christensen returning." And look, they got the original characters who played Uncle Ben, and we're like, "Oh, that's fun." And then there's Jimmy Smits and Kumail Nanjiani and like Joel Edgerton and all these characters, and all of a sudden Sung Kang from Fast and the Furious. This will be fun. And I think we're all looking through those rosy-covered glasses. They had a few stumbles in terms of production issues. They had a story. They're like, actually, we don't. We need to fix it. We'll come back to it. Pandemic happened. Lots of things happened. But we're finally here They dropped 2 episodes on the Friday to celebrate Star Wars Celebration, and on Wednesday they dropped episode 3. So we are at the halfway mark.
It threw everybody off too. Like, I don't know if you talk to people, you're like, "Did you watch the new Obi Wan?" And they're like, "It's out on Friday." I'm like, "No, no, no! They did that once, and now it's out on Wednesdays." Everyone got thrown for a loop.
Yeah. So it's as all these people are here, including a lot of named and unnamed actors. So we're not going to go into full spoilers because we go into it. But John, 3 episodes in, the hype was real. We're all jazzed. We're all ready. Give me all your thoughts on all 3, because I think the world collectively was holding their breath up to episode 2, and then a big sigh came out. Either you're like, "Wow, great," or "Oof." So where do you fall on the world?
Yeah. So keeping it kind of like spoiler free or spoiler light. Episodes 1 and 2. I think we're definitely stronger, or kind of like the potential. You're like, okay, I think I see where this is going. And then 3 kind of takes this weird turn. And I think this is where you're going to get the divide. So now we're in territory. They're using familiar characters that everyone really, really knows now. They don't have these kind of made up Mandalorian and that kind of stuff. Now they're delving really into known characters. So you're going to kind of split. I feel like you're going to split the fandom. Some people are going to hate this. Some people are going to love this. And some people are just going to be meh. And I feel like, unfortunately, I'm in the kind of meh camp right now. So if we did this after episode 1 and 2, I'd be like, okay, I'm kind of feeling this. But now after seeing episode 3, for some reason, episode 3, just, I don't know if it just turned the heat down or something like that. I don't know what's going on, but yeah, I'm kind of in the middle right now.
Rob, your thoughts?
Yeah, it is difficult. I am kind of glad that we're doing all 3 at once here, because I do think that the momentum of the first 2 left you questioning whether it was a great show or whether it was a decent show that was scratching your itch of nostalgia that maybe you didn't realize you needed to be scratched. Because I am not an overly big fan of the prequel trilogy, but I really appreciated and was kind of hyped to see Ewan McGregor come back. There is a saying, and I don't know who to attribute it to or whatever, but the saying is, and I'm paraphrasing, it's that you don't oh shit.
That's a weird saying.
Wow.
Shit.
No, it's something to the effect of, you don't know what you fuck, forget it. I'm trying to say, I'm having a John Homo
episode ever.
Whoa. What? Is it the saying, "It ain't over till it's over"? Because I think that's Yogi Berra.
What I wanted to say
is it you don't know that the thing is dead in the box until you open it. It could be alive.
What's in the box?
That's Schrodinger's cat.
Yeah, the cat. You don't know if it's alive. You don't know if it's dead until you open the box and find out.
No. It was sometimes like you don't know what you like. Something you want to be surprised with something with what you're not expecting, right? You want to leave the audience and being, if you're expecting one thing and you're going a completely different direction and it lands, you're like, holy shit, I can't believe I wasn't expecting this. But instead, what they're giving us is something that we didn't really want, right? Like, I feel like they're giving us a version of Obi Wan Kenobi that we didn't want. And that, I guess, what I was originally trying to say is, I didn't know you want to give me something that I didn't know I wanted, but now that I know that I need, I don't need this version of Obi Wan Kenobi, and so I'm kind of on the fence about it because I'm being let down, to be honest with you.
Wow.
Sorry, it's a long way to go there, guys.
It's just like Ewan McGregor's show, Long Way Down or Long Way Round. It's a journey that's worth going on. We got to finish this off.
Stu, you were most hype about this, I think.
Yeah,
you were hype train. Obi-Wan is your guy.
Obi-Wan is my guy. He's my favorite Jedi. I own the very expensive Obi-Wan lightsaber, the OG one back in the day, before the new ones have been made. So it's still out in my mom's place.
When they were big bucks, they were way more expensive back then.
Well, it was really hard. Although I think the the quality is still there. I think now they're a little bit less because they're a little more mass marketed, depending on when you get it or where you get it. But it was a good acquisition when I got it. It's the one where that you can pull off the lightsaber itself, so it's just you can have the metal part on a stand. So yeah, I got the OG. I think it's a beautiful lightsaber. It's made for one. I think Obi-Wan is underappreciated in the trilogy, and I think he really shines in the Clone Wars. And there's a large duality with him. So I was interested to see how they're going to treat this, because inevitably with this show is that they are not allowed to do too much wiggle room. Like the line has been set, so you can't do too much to deviate from the movies itself. And they've done a couple ways of doing it where, spoiler alert for the comic book and the Clone Wars, you know, he does, you know, for those who Obi-Wan does meet up with another, you know, a villain on Tatooine, and that fit kind of where the narrative of the storylines, because it didn't really intersect with A New Hope. And this is now really teetering on like the semantics of words, because even if you look back at all the quotes and everything, you can go back and think of all the quotes in A New Hope. Theoretically, you can get away with a lot, because like I haven't heard that name in a long time. What is the definition of a long time, Rob? Is it a week? Is it a month? Is
nowadays in the Twitter sphere, maybe 10 minutes?
Like, and that's valid. Like the Panini, like it's felt like it's been 30 years. So since the pandemic started. So yeah. I'm fine with that. I know a lot of people are displeased, just like I was displeased with the new trilogy and the way they handled with Luke and how he kind of was disheveled and sad. So there's a mirroring of that. If we're just hoping that, you know, there'll be a light at the end of the tunnel. It's really hard to say because we're on episode 3. Yeah.
Stu, do you think if they just didn't touch Luke at all in the newer trilogy, they would have been definitely better off than what they had now?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah, 100%. Like the way they kind of did that and they butched it. But to be fair with them, I just would have rather than committed to one or the other.
Yeah.
Because JJ came back on the third one and pivoted and be like, "Oh, we're gonna fix all the problems."
They flip flop back and forth. I would have liked to see it the original vision from the first one.
You have to go with one or the other, and when you flip flop, it's like, well, you just wasted a whole secondary film and the whole process. So, you know, the thing with this is that I get it. It's Star Wars is kind of a commodity where the movies need time to really breathe again. It needs time to be forgotten, so it can be just like fertilization of crops and land. You need to, once you grow a crop, you're gonna let it set for a while. It was a bad idea to do a movie every year. You just doesn't really work out very well in that universe, especially so heavy on the Skywalkers. So I'm glad that they're pivoting away from these characters. And Kathleen Kennedy said, "Hey, you guys have told us you don't want any more recasts. We're not gonna do it anymore." Like, great, this is fine. This was one of the kind of grandfather things because it worked. Everyone loved him as Obi-Wan, just like I love Daniel Glover as Lando Calrissian. So same thing was like, we're not gonna do it anymore. But meanwhile, the Lando show is like, oh yeah, we're still working on that. And somehow no one's complaining about Lando either because it's Lando Calrissian. So I think it's
almost like the Marvel factor where they take a B or C lister and they roll with it, but when they start messing around with the A-listers, then it kind of like people are like, no.
Yeah, it's just I think it just depends on who the actor is and what the role is. And for Obi-Wan, for most people, the trilogy, the new trilogy is their favorite. So this Obi-Wan is the Obi-Wan they care about, not the old man that Rob, me, and you care about. So Alec McGuinness is like, yeah, that's not the cool Obi-Wan. The cool Obi-Wan is the one before where he does all the funny jokes and all like hello there and like all the things that make Obi-Wan hilarious and fun and just awesome. So you could say the best parts of those movies were just Ewan McGregor was the best actor basically in a sea of like people are just doing what they got to do. Yeah. He actually was bringing life to a character and making him more interesting based on kind of the Sir Alec McGuinness. So yeah, I wanted to love this show, and I'm at a crossroads like everyone else. I just don't understand what they're doing, and I wish they just would have held off a bit longer to figure it out, because you can tell that the story is really shaky in terms of like, yeah, we're gonna figure it out. It's like, did you? Like, is this the right action? So before we get into those details, John, what are you rating these episodes out of 10? Because
yeah. So before I get into that, I think Rob actually hit it on the, like, you didn't know like what they want, whatever he was trying to say there. But now I know that I kind of don't want them to keep trying to shove these things in between things and all that. It's like almost like just jump ahead, like Star Wars Legacy, jump like 100,000 years in the future, and all these characters are all just legends and they're not in there anymore. So I think I have to adopt a new system in my ratings, and basically it's 1 that the thing is trash, 5 is like it's okay, so it's up for grabs, and 10 is it's awesome. And I got to give this a 5 right now. I don't think I could recommend it to somebody, and I don't think it's like total utter trash. You want to skip it. I think whoever is interested has got to kind of check it out and decide for themselves. So I'm gonna give these 3 episodes. I don't know if we're rating all 3 at the same time, but whatever I've seen thus far, I'm giving it a 5 out of 10. It's just kind of, it's going along for me.
Rob?
Yeah, so I'll rate. I think that the first 2 episodes feel like they're one synchronous episode. I would give each of them a 7, to be honest with you. The first 2 episodes.
That's pretty good.
Episode 3, I'm hard pressed to give it anything less than a 5.5. I think a 5.5 is fair for episode 3 because I felt really upset by some aspects of it. So,
Stu,
it's like I appreciate what they're doing with Obi-Wan in episode 1 and 2. The solitude, the vow, the promise, like the sacrifice, like, and just the PTSD damage of like believing in your best friend and like saying you're the chosen one, and like you're supposed to, like, everything that happened. Like, I don't know who among us can just basically bounce back from the atrocities and stuff. Like, you basically, your best friend, the guy that you like love as a brother, basically crushed everyone and killed everyone you know and loved. It is just a character study of a man who's just utterly broken, and it makes sense that he's broken. Like, I get it, because he just, that's who he is, and he's just trying to deal with it. So, like, from a character study from that perspective, it's like, I would say it's, I would rate a little higher than Rob. Like, it's a 7.5 for 1 and 2. What I saw in 3 was the dip. It's like, okay, there's some plot things that I was like, I'm like, okay, like the highs were high in 3 and the lows were low, and I would say that, yeah, it's like a 6 for episode 3. And I know people will be like, hey, Stu, but you made the same critique about Luke and why you were not happy with that and how he was disheveled and PTSD and blah, blah, blah. But I think Luke is a different character because Luke has shown through the films and in the movies that he is a person that is just always got the wrong side of the stick, and he's Mr. Positive. You always Mr. Teflon. He bounces back. He believes in people. He has that propensity to forgive even Darth Vader himself, and that's who he is. So for him to change so drastically in that final film or in that trilogy just broke a lot of our hearts because it doesn't make sense to that character. This Obi-Wan seems a little bit like the Obi-Wan from the films, where at least in A New Hope, he didn't want to help. He didn't want to, like, at least there's that level of like, well, we
living in a cave.
Yeah, like he was like, yeah, I haven't heard, like he was kind of already quote unquote checked out. So, there is a difference between the two characters in terms of the everlasting belief in goodness of Luke Skywalker and just Obi Wan Kenobi. Obi Wan's a different person, man. Like he's not who he is. So I'm a little able to forgive him for a little more just sadness. It's kind of like that bit with Patton Oswalt. Like he is like the bit where it talks about KFC, like where they mash all that food together. Like it's like mashed potatoes and like chicken and corn and all that stuff, and it's like a sad failure pile and a sadness bowl. Like he's just eating this, like whatever's left over, and it is fine. It is what it is. It's something that I totally understand from that standpoint, but I guess, you know, it's difficult for me to fully articulate because there's just a feeling I get with Obi-Wan that's different than Luke. Because Luke can believe in the goodness of Darth Vader, who we saw is just a terrible person, then things are very, very different. So
yeah, he's the new hope, right? He's like this new generation. Yeah,
you're right, John. It's the personification of a new hope. Like it's a different thing, and that's where I look back and that's kind of the fault of the show. It's going really too far, I guess, maybe into it. But I want to talk about kind of Ewan McGregor because I feel like he's embracing the character. He's very good in this role. This is tailor-made for him. He knows Obi-Wan. Is that what you're having difficulty with, John? As in, is it him or the story? Like,
I don't think so. I think McGregor is doing a really good job of portraying, like you said, this broken Obi-Wan who was defeated and had his friend, you know, just basically completely turned to the dark side and evil, right? So he's busted. He's broken. Everything's fucked up. I think it's the storytelling and the amount of characters they're now throwing in here. That's becoming questionable, and it leads to like really weird scenes. So I don't know. Do we want to go spoiler now and just kind of start talking about
let's give the hand waving and the spoiler talk and whatever, and so people know that's
spoilers. If you haven't seen it, like I said, I can't like not recommend it, and I also can't recommend it. Yeah,
John, we need to bring up a spoiler sign so we can.
I'll do an animation that just pops up spoiler and like jumps out and jump scares you or something funny like that. Spoiler! It's like it just scares the shit out of you. So it's the problem with the elements. There's just weird parts of the story that are getting thrown in. I don't know if it's a time issue or if they think it's clever, but it's not. Like the scene that pops to mind is Obi-Wan and Leia hitching a ride with this. I forgot what his name was, Fleck or something, weird guy like that. And they're sitting in this transport, and stormtroopers come on, and they start like asking him questions. So he makes up like a bad. He goes through a bad lie to try and cover it up. And I'm like, this is neither funny, nor tense, nor like it's just kind of nothing. So I'm like, what is this? This is totally like phoned in, and I feel like there's a whole bunch of just scenes like that, and then. Like they had episode 3 has Darth Vader with James Earl Jones jump in, and when he first pops up and he's sitting in that Citadel thing, and I question what he's looking out the window at. It's just like lava and ash waste and stuff like that. So it's kind of funny when he just looks out the window. But you're like, oh, this is so cool. But for some reason in the episode, he just doesn't hit. He's kind of sauntering about, and then they even get. I was like, oh, they're not even gonna fight now. So, but they did fight. They fought, and for some reason, it doesn't have that oomph. Like I remember episodes 1, 2, and 3, the lightsaber battles were like phenomenal. I remember watching those on repeat like forever. You'd be like, oh my god, and then you'd see the behind the scenes and they're practicing. Maybe they just don't have the amount of time, and we're expecting a movie caliber choreographed.
I don't think it's time, John.
Yeah,
I think it's just they're constrained because if you make that fight too awesome, then what explains why they didn't fight that awesome in A New Hope? It's my same criticism of Star Wars Rogue Squadron. At the end, when Darth Vader's doing all that cool stuff, I'm like, what, did he run out of batteries when he fought Obi-Wan? Like, Obi-Wan happened like a day later, and he couldn't do any of that stuff? So, like, constricted to, like, all he could do was this. I'm like, wait a second. You ripped apart the Rebel Alliance on that on Tantive 5 or 4 or whatever. And like, not in the movie before, and in this movie you can't do anything. So it's unfortunately for them, they're always fighting with one hand tied behind their back because they can't do that much.
Yeah, so maybe it is the confines of they can't do certain things because but she the new Jedi Rhea not that's what did they call the sisters or the Inquisitors? Yeah, she kills that Grand Inquisitor, and I believe he's still kicking it in Rebels and all that other.
Again, we don't know if he's dead. Like the thing about Star Wars is that there's another person that was dead, and he also comes back. So like let's be a little rough.
If anything that these shows have established, it's that you see the robot man, and he fixes you right up. So I assume this character's coming back. Like, but it kind of it definitely handcuffs them storyline, like, because then we know Obi-Wan has to go, no matter what he does this season, he has to go into this hermit in the cave setting again, where he's hiding and burying lightsabers in the sand and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think. Do you think it's? Are you having an issue with McGregor, or is it everything around him? You feel?
I think it's a story because, like, again, the constraints really make it difficult. Like the Leia thing was just like, I get that's the item that has to drag him off of Tatooine, because again, there's no reason he'll come off that planet unless it's for her. So I get that portion of it. People are complaining. They're like, well, that ruins the narrative of it. They're like, oh, why doesn't, like, oh, she knows he's a Jedi, blah, blah, blah. But remember, she said Ben Kenobi. Like, she knows him as Ben Kenobi. She wouldn't just say Jedi over the radio, because it's a radio or like a video. Someone could take that and Darth Vader can, like, you know, get him, right? Because Darth Vader doesn't know him as Ben Kenobi. He knows him Obi-Wan, right? So the fact of the matter is, part of that narrative of like, oh, well, Leia, I'm like, Leia's smart enough now to realize what she can and cannot say. So she's not going to say, oh, great, oh, he's a general, but he's not going to say, oh, he's a Jedi Knight. So like, it's true. He was a great general. Like it's a thing. So I get that portion of it. I get the Grand Inquisitor, because it's bringing in the lore that Dave Filoni put in Rebels. So the consistency of that is there. Like Force-attuned kids that were basically converted to the dark side to hunt down Jedis. Great. That makes sense. The fact that they're mentioning Jedis on the Secret Network, they're mentioning a rebellion, they're mentioning, like, all the stuff is in line of what's going to happen in the Star Wars universe. So that's fine. I think the bigger issue is when you have Darth Vader essentially have a duel with Obi-Wan. That's where things come off the rails, where you're like, oof, like, I wish they didn't do that at all. But at the same time, you have to show Obi-Wan at the lowest, right? Like, it's true, he hasn't done anything in 10 years. Like, he's not trained. Like, why would he be good at anything? So
yeah, he couldn't do anything. He couldn't Jedi mind trick people. He couldn't use the Force to save his ass, or anybody for that.
He did use the Force, yeah, to save Leia.
Oh yeah, to pull Leia, but there's some poor schmuck in the town that gets their, like, neck broken, and he just watches it go down.
Yeah, it's one of those things. You just like that's the narrative. Like, Darth Vader is truly an evil person going around killing people. I'm like, all right, like, okay, like, they can sense each other, like, and try to draw it out. I just don't understand why, you know, that spy was like, oh, Tala was like, yeah, I'm gonna leave Leia alone, and I'll go back and save Obi-Wan. I'm like, okay. The fire was another problem I had, where it's like Vader's like going through the fire, and you're like, okay, and then all of a sudden the fire goes back up, and Vader can't go through the fire, and I'm like, you're wearing a robot.
he couldn't shut it off again, because he shuts it off the first time. He whooshes it, and then he's out of juice or something.
I just really like, again, batteries run low, because again, you only have a limited time to use batteries or charge. I guess it's like F-Zero. You only have like 3 turbos, and he must have used his turbos already, and that's it. You know,
I'm all out of Force juice. Rob, we're discussing Ian McGregor.
Well, I was about to actually make fun of Darth Vader, and then the Imperials knocked out his.
You know what happened? Here I go talking about COVID, and then my Bill Gates owned Microsoft system decided to do a whole bunch of updates.
It's
It's
what are your thoughts of his portrayal of Obi? We were kind of discussing. We don't think that he is the fault. Like, he's the negative part.
He's not the negative.
Yeah. No, but, you know, I heard the end of Stu's, you know, topic where he said, you know, hasn't done anything for 10 years. Obviously, he's not going to. But the problem with that I have is that you are still strong. You still have to have some skill. I get that you are now chopping the shit out of a fish guts. And your 10 years has been kind of crappy.
Fishy.
You're smart enough to have planted a droid to know if you've got unwanted guests. You know, Batman took 8 years off after The Dark Knight, and he was still somewhat formidable in The Dark Knight Rises.
How long was John Wick down for? How long was John Wick out for? And he still murdered those guys.
You still have a certain level of skill. And if you are telling me that in 10 years you've done nothing, well, then Obi-Wan would have been a fat slob, right? Like, I just have a tough time believing. and I understand his PTSD and everything else. I just have a tough time believing that he's a complete 180 of who he was. This is one of the most badass Jedis that they had from the second movie on. Like the first, he was still underneath. He was still pretty badass with Qui-Gon as as the Padawan. But then when he took on Anakin,
to be fair, he's no Mace Windu.
Yeah, fair enough. But what I'm saying though is that everybody,
if you look at the hierarchy of the greatest Jedis fighting like warrior Jedis, Mace Windu's at the top. Like Mace has the powers.
Are we talking Clone Wars? That animated
everything total.
Yeah.
Everything, because even they've already confirmed that his special Jedi sense is canon, right? Like he has an additional like Spidey sense that only few Jedi have, and Mace Windu has it. So it's like one of those things where Mace Windu is, out of all the styles of again, we went back before about the different Jedi as standing techniques. Mace Windu can do it all. Obi-Wan is a defensive fighter, so again, that's the nature of his stances and the nature of that character. But yeah, Rob, to your point, he is not that sharp, but
not that sharp. Like a butter knife is more like.
But again,
he doesn't show. Listen, I would appreciate the portrayal of this character if he was reluctant to use his powers, which we saw in the second episode with John referenced the fact that the guy gets his name. He doesn't want to out himself. He's doing his best because he knows he puts everybody else in danger if he uses his powers. But that being said, there are moments that he could have been even a shadow of himself and still been better than some of those the stormtroopers. And in this, he was reliant on his blaster. He wasn't shooting great. It was like it.
He's a terrible shooter on those rooftops.
Yeah, like you still would have some vestige of or semblance of power, of knowledge, of confidence. He lacks everything, and he's running away and he's terrified. He's not running away in hopes of delaying the inevitable. He's running away out of pure terror. Which, by the way, when you're playing hide and seek in the dark, by default, Vader is going to lose because his bippity boppities are always glowing. So you always know he's coming for you. And listen, I'm assuming people are happy that Hayden Christensen is back in some capacity. I've never liked his physique in the costume. It doesn't look imposing. Like the Vader that we got at the end of Rogue One, whoever portrayed him was imposing and menacing. When it's Hayden Christensen wearing the uniform, it looks like me wearing my from Party City. Like it doesn't look like it fits right. I was happy that James Earl Jones came back to voice Vader because I was a bit of an unknown. I didn't know if that was going to happen or if they're going to get somebody to do a voice rep on it. But yeah, with Obi-Wan, I'm just. And you know what? My son and he's a huge fan of the prequels, right? Like his favorite movie is Episode 3. And he says, I don't know how I feel about this show because I'm kind of disappointed. And I think I get he's only 13, but it kind of sums up like his kid grew up watching this badass and there's no sense of that anymore. And I don't know if it's just too bad because I feel like you could have made your point that he's not the same guy, but he still has something and he's got nothing. Also, I gotta be honest with you guys. After like episode 1, you find out he's chasing Leia. I was like, oh, another small companion. Like
it's fine. You missed it, Rob, but it's the reason it makes sense for him to go off the planet. I'm fine with that. And again, in the canonical nature of the movies, she says, "Oh, Ben Kenobi." Like so far, that's all he knows. She knows him as like whatever. Yeah. Like it's fine. This sets her up to understand. She's force attuned. She sees people's intentions. But part 2, she understands now that there are bigger threats, and she's thrusting her towards the leadership position that she'll come into later in life, become princess, a part of the resistance. So this is all setting her up in that way because we know the story of Luke. We just didn't really know it in the movie canonical form. And I was corrected. The stance 3 is what Obi-Wan does, which is defensive stance, known as the Way of the Melloc, the resistance form. It is definitely the more defensive method of saber fighting. So
he's in stance 28, which is run the fuck away.
Yeah.
But he has been portrayed as a pretty capable Jedi. You go back to prequels and everything.
Yeah, but Jedi Form 3 is great in terms of deflecting like blasters and like it's like you can do that, and that's what you need to fight off basically droids. It works very well. Mace Windu is the full out balls to the wall attack technique, and he basically murders people. So it's a whole different philosophy.
Well,
can we talk about our boy, our favorite? Timu Morrison showing up in a nice cameo, wearing the armor that he's never worn before.
Yeah,
John, do you care at all?
Was that actually him, or was that someone? Okay, yeah,
with hair.
Yeah,
I again haven't followed a lot of that era stuff, the Clone Wars, Rebels, all that kind of era. So it doesn't really have resonance to me. It was neat to see a character like that, basically designated to a background role. So it was cool to see that. I really like that city, that Blade Runner city they went to. I was like, if they chill out here more, I'm tired of seeing all these deserts, but whatever.
You gotta make
it was cool. It was cool to see.
Yeah. John, you gotta make those sets worthwhile, man. It's like you paid for them. It's kind of like how Star Trek used the same like cave over and over and over. It's like, wow, they're in. Rob, do you notice that the Enterprise is dealing with another subterranean cave this week? Very convenient that they're on the ship and then they're in another cave.
You can kind of see it now. Unfortunately, now that we've seen so many episodes stuff, you can kind of see like, oh, this is the set that's a small,
however,
the desert house town or whatever, right?
You watched Star Trek Strange New Worlds the other day.
I haven't watched it yet.
Unbelievable. Like the location, for those of you who are watching Star Trek Strange New Worlds, it's all filmed in the GTA in the Toronto area. In episode 3, I watched it and my wife was getting something, and then the showed this location. I started laughing, paused it, rewound it. I'm like, wait, watch this. She saw it, she started laughing. We're like, oh my god, they used this place? Amazing. It's amazing. Was that episode? Where are you on Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Rob? Episode?
I think I only got to see the first 2.
Okay.
I've been off my ass for 2 weeks, so I think you guys are on episode 4 or 5 now. So
I think we're at 5 now. So episode 5. Bang for buck, the best Star Trek show on TV. I'm enjoying the crap out of it.
Cool.
5 just came out today. Yes. So great. And then, like you said, Rob, John really liked the little driver man, Freck, of course, voiced by Zach Braff himself.
So I find those scenes are just like awkward. Like they're neither funny nor tense. Like it's really weird. Yeah. Like I don't know if Rob, you got that feeling at all, but yeah.
I'm very confused at who O'Shea Jackson Jr. plays because he's not been in the show yet. And I'm like, people are like, oh, you're not going to like who I'm going to be. I'm like, oh my God, are you going to be like the son of Mace Windu? Like, what is happening? Like, what are you going to be in this TV show? Because he's in it. So I don't know. The son of Ice Cube. What is it going to be? I don't know. Also, to surprise to no one, Hayden Christensen's like, yeah, I'll do more Star Wars. I'm available. John, do you want more of that? Do you want more Darth Vader as Hayden Christensen?
I can totally hear what Rob is saying. Like he doesn't quite have the presence of whoever, either I don't know if the person is just larger or just has experience in body movement, but maybe he can get there. I do like that he's getting a second chance because I'm sure after the prequel things, his life was not necessarily miserable, but I'm pretty sure he was not really feeling the love. So I hope that.
Hey man, don't you diss Jumper. That was a.
I actually quite like Jumper, and I wish they made follow-ups to it. But when I saw him in the tank, when he was kind of floating in the tank, and he was there, I was like, oh wow, that's cool. And then all of a sudden, next episode, he's already in the Vader costume, and he doesn't quite move. But you know what? He is, I guess, younger at this point, so maybe he doesn't move like a sauntering Michael Myers on steroids or whatever, right? So
it doesn't matter that he's there. Like to be very honest with you, and this is where they're like, oh, we got Hayden Christensen back. Okay, but for what? Like we saw him. We saw him in that one Mirage.
Yes, Mirage scene. Hayden Christensen. That was a big
deal.
Yeah,
that looks cool. Yeah.
Like, okay, cool. Like if we're gonna see more of that, of him out of the suit and like in dream sequences, Mirage, then I'm all for it. But if that's really it, and he's just in the suit the entire time, I don't care. It's like, come on, man. Like you're not doing the voice, and it could be anybody walking around in that suit. It doesn't need to be him. Like so that's why I'm like, well, there's got to be something else. I'm hopeful that there's something else, because there's a far way. He's not imposing. Unfortunately, the third sister is more of an imposing baddie than Vader is at this point.
Can we do two thought processes? Kumail Nanjiani, John, do you have any thoughts on Kumail?
I liked him. I liked his character. I liked that he was kind of running a scam, but it turned out he like a thief with a heart of gold type mentality. Like he actually wants to help people, but he wants to make money off it. So I liked it, and I wouldn't mind if he returned. So yeah, I like that type of character. Smugglery, like regular human type things.
Rob?
Yeah, I thought it was kind of funny, but then to be very honest with you, after the episode was over, and I was like, okay, we didn't see him in the third one. I couldn't help but be like, oh, he's just doing Kango from the Eternals. Like, is Kumail Nanjiani, does he only really have like one or two tricks up his sleeve? Like, I feel like he's just kind of playing himself with this kind of self-deprecating, witty humor, which I enjoy. But it's kind of like, well, but what else do you have, right? So hopefully he comes back. We see him a little bit more. Otherwise, it's just a stunt cast, and he's in for the one episode. And I'm glad for him. I know listen, every actor is excited to be a part of the Star Wars universe in some capacity. So I'm really happy for him if that's what he gets. I'm just like, what are you serving to the story, right? Like, and unfortunately, I want to see you do more. And if you're not, and if you're just the witty guy who says lines kind of funny, then you're doing the exact same shtick you did in the Eternals.
And then two more points before we wrap this things up. Rob, do you have any thoughts on a rock legend Flea being a major villain in the?
That shit made me laugh when I saw Flea. I was like, "Oh my god, Needles from Back to the Future Part 2."
Who is in the show? A couple people mentioned it to me, and I couldn't play. I don't know this guy.
He's the main bad guy who steals Leia.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Hey, sure, why not? It's again kind of stunt casting-ish. I mean, this is kind of the problem, is that when you start bringing in these people that they're not even character actors, they're just like cameo stunt. Like, oh, and it kind of I feel like sometimes it takes you away from it. I think when he played Needles in Back to the Future Part 2, it was kind of cool, but then it was like everybody was kind of accepting of it because he wasn't really into a lot of stuff, right? Now you're looking at it, you're like, oh, the Peppers just had an album drop in April, on April 1st. Now you're in the, like, I don't know, it just kind of feels a little bit weird, but whatever. Can we
do the shout outs to the three droids that have taken the world by storm? First, in the first episode or second episode, the bounty hunter everyone thought was Forlome. It's actually Ijax, the bounty hunter robot that was up there shooting at Obi Wan. That was a fun little thing. So I choose out there. I'm like, oh, it's Forlome, and I'm like, oh wait, is that? No, it's not. Number two, Lola, the little flying droids with basically. What's the movie with the batteries not included? It was
Yeah.
I'm like, it's one of is that canonical now? Is batteries not included part of the Star Wars universe? Is that what it is? Are they going to go around with the little legs start fixing buildings? Because I hope that's the next thing that happens.
Apparently, that's already for sale. That little robot toy at Disney stores or whatever. So.
Is it?
That's what I've heard. Yeah, they said, yeah.
I was gonna be like, "What's with this droid violence?" Because at the point when the Fleck guy breaks, I thought he was gonna step on it too. I'm like, "Oh man, this is gruesome. Droids are getting slaughtered," but luckily he didn't.
And then last shout out to the service droids who cannot speak. Just with a cool wrench in the background, also lifting up Obi Wan. I'm like,
loader droid or whatever.
I love
loader droid. He kind of had like that weird way of standing. like kind of his head was like like stuck in like a 90 or 45-degree angle upwards, and he had like the Cyclops visor going on. I actually quite liked him. And then what did he have behind his back? Like at one point he's gonna freaking Clint Eastwood you know Gran Torino a guy. I wanted to see him belt a guy with it.
If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
Yeah, but you know the problem I did have with that, and I thought of used to. I was like, if you were a fan of Doctor Who in the 70s, it was a dude in a rubber suit, and when you saw his hand, you know, grasp the wrench behind, you could see the rubber of the hand, you know, bend a bit. You're like, it's a dude in a suit. I can see his legs with black leotard. It was very Doctor Who 70s.
I loved it. I thought it was great.
I want that action figure. I want Loader Droid to get an action figure. I definitely want.
John, don't you worry. He's gonna get.
I want 3 of them.
don't you worry. They're gonna everything. If they made a Lola, they're gonna make it everything. I don't know how I feel about the rest of the show because we've been in this dance before where.
What about your boy Sung Kang? I don't know if you're gonna mention.
They have lots of runway, but you have 3 episodes left. How much runway can you go?
Is it only 6?
Oh yeah.
Oh, we're halfway. That's trouble then. I feel like if it was 8, I feel like I wouldn't be as concerned. But with 3 more left. But what about Sung Kang? Stu, your boy.
I think he actually does a really good job in this. In this, like he just does that like, follow me, third sister. Like it's just so ridiculous. It is not really like hard acting. Like once you put on a stupid like accent like that, everything you say sounds good.
And they covered a lot of like he got the makeup and the effects going on.
Like his lines are like, "I will get what's coming my way." Like in that voice, you don't really have to emote differently. You just have to sound like an alien.
Yep.
So yeah, that's a thing. The whole thing about the Grand Inquisitor, people are like, "Whoa, he's dead." I'm like, slow down, people. Like death doesn't mean anything in Star Wars until you actually die. The only thing that I have to say is if Qui-Gon doesn't show up at all in the series, let's burn this mother down. Like if his voice doesn't show up sometime, like at the end of episode 5,
shouldn't he be a Force ghost? Shouldn't he be like one of those blue ghost thingies?
He should be anything. A voice. Like when he sat there going Master, I'm like, oh crap, are they gonna bring?
Yeah,
like,
I thought it was gonna pop. Yeah.
No, it's like like they brought in like the voices of him and Yoda, and I'm like, it's like this is the voice of the movie. Like give me like thing. I have to say that recap from episode prequel was
previously on Star Wars.
the French kiss. Like when I messaged the group chat going, I got chills the first like 5 minutes of this show where it's like, here's the recap of the thing, and you're like, wow, this seems amazing. If you didn't watch any of this, you just saw that, you're like, wow, those movies look great. It's like
that's why episode 1 and 2 of this show work so well. I almost thought they were basically going to Cobra Kai it. So they were going to make these episodes, like the prequels, look really, really good and kind of keep like pulling back to them and flashing back to them. But
well, so I just want to kind of like, I know we're running late on this. I just want to say that the first 2 episodes dropped the same weekend as Stranger Things season 4. And I got to tell you guys, I watched Stranger Things season 4 all in those first 7 episodes in that first weekend when it came out. And I intermixed it with these first 2 episodes as well. I was way more jazzed watching Stranger Things than I was watching Obi Wan. Like, it just, I get that they're 2 different things, but they kind of play in the same realm of that sci-fi kind of nostalgia itch, and it just.
It's again, we just said it before. One is playing basically one arm tied behind the back. So like it's just the difficulty for this show is so hard that you should have worked it out before doing it. Like
I would say what's the Star Trek show called? Strange Adventures or whatever. That's treading similar ground, right? Because it's set in between a bunch of stuff, right?
They got 10 years to do it because it's like they have enough space to go through. So but like we'll see, because they can always easily screw it up as well. Like it doesn't take much to screw up
but I like that show much better, but I feel like they're different types of shows though.
It's also Star Trek is also like going to be like 15 episodes, and they could do different things, filmed in Ontario, like at York University in parts of downtown. Like it's different. It's not Star Wars. Like you can't do Star Wars almost anywhere on the planet without making custom sets. Star Trek has shown that you can go to like
Very Hall.
Yeah, Very Hall. They're gonna film probably they filmed at like U of T Scarborough. They probably filmed at City Hall. Like they're gonna film on parts of the city, and you're like, oh, I know where they are because Star Trek is inevitably just a little bit of the future, but not that far ahead. So it's just different. Like we talked before about like the difficulty score in gymnastics and figure skating, and Obi-Wan is just doing the hardest triple lutz possible, and it's not working out. But the other ones are just doing like a low one triple jump. Like that's fine. Which is basically Stranger Things. Like they don't have. There's no road ahead of them that says, oh, by the way, Millie Bobby Brown is going to be this stoic character that has to do this and also dies. So they don't have that type of thing that stops them from pivoting. So yeah, I'm not too concerned. Let's keep our fingers crossed. They have 3 episodes. Even if it doesn't turn out that well, at the end of the day, Disney keeps on doing it, and we're going to keep on Charlie Browning ourselves. We're going to keep on going for that soccer ball.
I'll say that this one is a lot more watchable than something like the slow episodes of Boba Fett and stuff like that.
Yeah, I would take this over Boba Fett. Oh, for sure.
Until the Mandalorian shows up, and then
right. Yes,
once the Mandalorian shows up, and then it's fine. When the Mando shows up, it's great. Before then, you're like, yeah. But again, that's such a difference between actors. Temu is great, but he's not Ewan McGregor, and Ewan, even solitude of him slowly cutting meat is much more interesting than half of what him going through the desert fighting Jaw was. So
and stealing it right in front of everybody. How are they not seeing this guy carefully fold the meat up and put it in his shirt? It's funny.
Yeah. Jedi mind trick, man. Mind trick.
But he couldn't do it.
It is what it is. All right, John. Tell us what we have going on this week. Where can we find you in the sphere that we call Earth?
Yeah, so the easiest way to get all the latest updates, all the latest info is to follow Heroes World online on the Instagram and the Facebook. That's where we have all our current updates, like new toys and fun stuff we get, like the latest Transformers action figures we got in and fun stuff like that. So check us out there. And if you're not listening on the audio, check us out on my app of choice is Spotify. You can use it for free. So check us out, Heroes World Podcast on the Spotify.
Rob, what's going on the Sidekick Show?
Oh, this is going to be a fun one. We're actually going to go, we're talking about, nostalgia itches, and we're talking about needles. But before we get to number 2, I don't mean injection needles. I meant, you're fired, McFly. We're going back to the future, the original Trials and Tribulations of Marty McFly and Doc Brown. So Monday night, 8:15 live, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. John and I are revisiting Back to the Future. If you are in Canada, you can check it out on Netflix or on Amazon Prime. And then join us as we jump into DeLorean and hit 88 miles per hour, and you're going to see some serious shit. And we're going to jump back and discuss Back to the Future. So that's Monday night, 8:15 live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. Let us know your thoughts on the show. Tell me how wrong I am and how much of a goofball that I've been.
It's going to work for some people. Some people are really going to love it. So
yeah,
it will discredit them or anything.
I would like to know if you're one of those people. Bell, star, like, subscribe, do all those things. Comment below. Let us know your thoughts. May the force be with you, and we'll see you all later. Goodbye, everyone.
Peace.
Oh, wrong thing. Bye.